We are live. Welcome to the Room Show. We got a special guest today. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Rome. Thank you so much for having me on this morning. Looking forward to chit chatting.
I really appreciate it for you taking time coming on the podcast.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I I've been wanting to, I don't know, kind of get my name out there more. So I thought this would be a good way to for both of us to, reach some different audiences, if you want to call it that.
Right. For the people on my platform that don't know, when did you start being a news reporter, and what made you want to do it?
Yeah, for sure. So I started as a news reporter in January of 2021. My first TV market job was actually out in El Paso, Texas. And I just moved back from El Paso, Texas this summer. And now I've been working with NBC Connecticut since June of Oh, well, I keep on saying this summer, but it's 2025. So actually, since June of 2024, I've now been with NBC. A couple years now in the TV news industry, and it's been really exciting. I got into it originally. Back when I was still in school and all that stuff. First I studied print journalism, and I thought I wanted to, write articles and basically be a print journalist. But that was a class or a course I took at my first school at Norwalk Community College, which is no longer called Norwalk Community College. It's called something else now. But I took that there, but then it wasn't until I went to my second school at Quinnipiac University where I took a broadcast journalism course, and that's where I really fell in love with the whole like production side and the cameras, and obviously like the aspect of TV. All of that was really cool to me, and the way they taught it to us in that in that school in that course, it felt like something that I could, learn, I could thrive in. And that's essentially what kind of gave me the push of like, okay, cool. Like I can do this too, eventually or one day and stuff. And something that they always like would tell us in school is that, especially if you kind of wanted that on-air position, is to like not necessarily expect to get hired, at your local news 12 or at NBC like right away. And it was kind of always that conversation of you should probably try to move out a little further and like hone your skills and just gain some experience and then basically like work your way back. And so I was pretty open to that, like when it came time to graduate and everything. So that's why I went ahead and just went out all the way to Texas. I figured, like, okay, cool, I'll just start out here and, essentially work my way back. And thankfully, it's all worked out so far. So, yeah.
Interesting story. Um,
Yeah.
that's definitely a big challenge. How did you get yourself ready to like move far out and then like create your brand, create yourself, and then come back?
Yeah. So, honestly, like, obviously, family support, I think, is everything. Um, I am very close with my mom. Well, actually, with my whole family. I have a pretty small family, so I guess we could say we're all close in our different ways. But at the time, I was living with my mom, and just going to school, having a part time in between, staying up late doing homework. Like, you don't want to do all that for nothing, And so it comes a point where you have to decide, like, okay, what am I really doing this for? And what do I really want out of it? And so for me, when, again, like staying up, doing assignments, getting up early to go to school with my part time job I had at the time, I was like, all right, if I did all this, it's because I actually, really want to like do journalism, right? I want to put stories out there. I want to be able to report. And so that was really like my big push for me. It was just wanting to do it and knowing that I've worked so hard to essentially get to the opportunity that now like I have to take that opportunity. I can't just let it sit there. I can't just let it, go by me or whatever. Thankfully, I did get a job offer pretty quickly after graduation. So that was, kind of a push in itself. I also graduated in December of 2020 when the pandemic was going on. So for me, it was also, there's kind of like there was a lot of things obviously that were different. And again, like I didn't want to let that opportunity go, even if it wasn't a place I necessarily had in mind, like El Paso, Texas. I've never actually been to Texas before this whole experience. Um, but it was just something that I was like, you know what, I've been working towards this. This is the opportunity that's being presented to me, and I have to take it. And I was, told kind of like, if you, basically like home will always be there. And so if something doesn't go well or whatever, like you can always come back home or at least come back to the state, um, and, try again, but at least give it that first shot. So that's really like what pushed me, a little bit of family, a little bit of myself. Sometimes you kind of just have to go for it. And I think it was like it's been really rewarding being able to move out there, see like for myself that I could do it. Well, I'll say quote unquote on my own because my fiance, now husband, was with me, so I wasn't completely on my own. I did have some help, just in life or whatever, but it is pretty cool to say like you were able to try something out on your own and then kind of work your way back home, and that you did it
Yeah.
in that sense, yeah. And well, that was kind of like a two-part question. So about the lifestyle, it wasn't really till I got into news that I started being more conscious of like how I use my social media and what I want to post and things like that. So I honestly, I think maybe in terms of like brand, I'm still a little bit behind. I think I still have like some work to do in terms of really like growing it. But I just try to put out stuff that show a little bit like of what I do in my personal life, and obviously, of course, like highlighting maybe like what I think is my best work or stories that are, pretty special and just kind of stand out to me, and things like that. So that's kind of how I've been working on my brand, but I think there's still like a lot of room for improvement. My husband always makes fun of me when I like start to make content. He's like, "Oh, you're making content again." I'm like, like, yeah, you got to make content if you want your stuff out there and stuff. So anyway, it's just like a little tease, but yeah, I think it's definitely important, to put stuff out there and show like both sides so people don't think you're like a robot or something.
Right. And when you went to Texas and like your first day going live on TV, was you like nervous or you was ready?
Oh no, I was so nervous. I actually still have that clip, and well, I won't say I look at it daily because that's weird, but I've seen it every now and then, and it's so funny. I had a mask on still, and when I look back on it, I'm like, why did I have a mask on? Because I was outside. So it really, like, I really shouldn't have had a mask on. First of all, that's like the first thing that stands out to me. Second, just the way I'm holding the microphone, like it's really close to my face. Um, but the thing I can't get past is the mask, and then also my voice is just like not it's just not it. Like it really, I don't think I did terrible. I think I told people the information that needed to be told. I remember it was actually a breaking news scene. And it was funny because when I was training, those first 2 weeks of training, they had me working on my first story, kind of prepping the interviews and stuff, which is not, when you're in it like every day, you don't get a day ahead to plan your stuff. You kind of just plan it as you go. Um, so anyway, when I first started, they gave me like a week just to plan one story, which I was like, wow, like, okay, cool, right? So I'm planning my stuff. I remember I was going to do a story about truckers and COVID because out in Texas, there's like a bunch of truckers. So it was going to be, how's COVID impacting them and things like that. So I remember I was working on it. I actually started the overnight shift at my old station. So I would go in at 2 a.m. and I would be out at 10 a.m. So I remember I was working on my story and stuff, and then all of a sudden they were like, Jennifer, there's breaking news, and I was the only one. And I was like, you guys aren't going to send me, are you? And they're like, yeah, like we're going to send you. I was like, it's my first, like it's my first shift. What do you mean? They're like, yeah, like go, like go get your stuff and go. I was like, all right. So yeah, thankfully my photographer, we still have a really great relationship. His name is JT, and so JT, on our way there, he's like, don't worry, just well, obviously write down what you need to write down, like have all the right information. But when we got there, he's like, this is how you say, like the name of the restaurant. It was like a kind of a funky name. And this is the area where we are. Like, don't call it by its street name. Like people usually know it as this instead. So he gave me those little pointers that made me feel like a tiny bit better. But yeah, I was definitely super nervous. And I mean, I think I was as prepared as I could be, but it was not the best live shot. I could say that.
That must have been like real nerve wracking. I would have been like,
Yeah.
what?
Right. And then it was also cold, it's like 3 a.m. And it just was not the morning that I thought I was going to have. But it also was a really good morning because it just showed you like how much, in news things change. Things are like so fluid and you can plan as much as you want. In this case, I planned a week ahead, but it's not going to always go like how you plan precisely. So, yeah.
Right. I must have been real nervous for you.
Yeah, no, it was. And, after that, well, obviously that was the first one. I would say like, it probably took me like a good 6 months to really feel like in place and feel like in the groove. So, um, I think for people watching, if you're working on a special project and stuff, like don't, even if in this case, like I went to school for it, I studied it, I had, let's say the training to do the job. Um, Obviously, it's always different once you actually are doing it and like, the cliche practice makes perfect. You have to give yourself some time to really get good at doing something. And obviously there's always room for improvement, but basically like don't be too hard on yourself if you just start if you've just started something and you're like, man, like I should be better. I know what I'm doing. And it's like, yeah, you know what you're doing, but it still takes a second and that's okay. I think we gotta like remind ourselves and maybe just be a little bit kind, because again it's not always just you may have some difficult coworkers or other stuff kind of like making you doubt like, oh man, am I in the right place? But honestly, like I'm so happy that I finished out my time in El Paso like the way I did, and it was a really rewarding experience. So I'm happy that those difficult days, like it wasn't enough to make me want to quit or anything, because I don't think that would have been worth it, like in the long run looking back on it now.
Right. And
Yeah.
going through those times, what's like a few things you prepared yourself? Because you're like nervous, you're about to go live.
Yeah. Um, so for me, it's always, um, well, for one, I feel like it's kind of a funny phrase, but it's like look good, feel good. So it's like if I look good, I'm gonna feel good, and then it's gonna kind of transmit over on the TV in terms of confidence. Because if there's something off about me, I'm probably already distracted thinking like, oh, is the viewer looking at my, I don't know, like crazy hair, or are they going to notice that I got a pimple on my cheek? Like little small things like that, at least for me, kind of will distract me. So I guess for one, physical appearance, always trying to at least control that aspect of it. Second, obviously practicing, whether it's as I'm writing, on our way to the live shot, even as we set up, kind of like saying what I'm going to say back to myself just to make sure that I have like a good flow of it, and well, that I know what I'm going to say. And then sometimes it's even just like talking it out, with your photog. Like if you want to show something in the back of you might want to head out just a couple minutes early so that you can make sure, like let's go out early, make sure we have a good background behind us, or let's, make sure we secure a good spot if we know it's going to be a place that's going to be busy. So that way we have like some flexibility to be able to show something behind us, or, we always try to, I guess, just plan as much as planning is really key, and working as a team. Those are some things that I like to do, like to try to prepare for my live shot, is just trying to plan ahead. Like, what are we trying to show? How are we going to show it? Is the light, like, is it raining? Is it not raining? Like, are all the, what factors are going to interfere perhaps with us wanting to do what we want to do? So just trying to be like super mindful of all that sort of stuff, and it's not just going out and like turning on your camera, because this just not a good, it won't be a good live shot. I mean, you could do that, I guess, right? But it's definitely like there's more to it than just that. So,
Right.
yeah.
Um, what's one thing that you haven't done yet that you want to do?
Ooh. Um, well, I like, for example, in this market, in life, and
One in the news world and one in like your personal life.
Okay. Um, let's see. Well, in news, I would like to I would like to work on like a big project, and I don't know what this might look like, right? But I've always been interested in going, like, for example, journalists who interview, inmates, for example, like something like that. I think that is, I don't know, it just seems really cool to be able to get that access, to be able to, you know, sit with someone depending on, who that person is. But those sort of interviews and that access that you can gain as a journalist, like, I feel like that's just, it calls my attention. Also, like covering like a really high profile case, for example, in New York City, with us being so close, like I would definitely love the opportunity, one day to do that. um yeah, I think things like that. I would love to work in New York one day also, just like even as a reporter too. I think that would be kind of like a peak for me, just because it's New York. So
Right.
I think that would be just great to say that I was able to, or that I got to, even if it was like for one story or something, to go out there and go live out there. That would be really cool. Um, Also, like, I love the New York City Rockettes and like the whole show that they put on during the Christmas time. So I would actually love to work like on that show one day, whether it's like the on-set side, like the production of it. Like, I would like to be involved in one of those productions. I think those, they're always like so spectacular, and I don't know, I just think it would be really cool. And then like in my personal life, well, there's just a lot of places that I still want to travel to. Um and yeah, I guess I don't have something too specific there, but there's a lot of places that I want to travel to. I'm kind of more simple on that side. I like to just go out, try new places, restaurants and things like that. But I don't have like my bucket list is pretty calm. Let's just put it that way.
Right. And you being like a news reporter, you have a husband, right?
Yeah.
And in your personal life, I know you're super busy. How do you balance like everything?
Well, I think having like I guess a partner who's understanding is definitely important. Um, like I said, we were just engaged at the time, but during my first market job, when I worked overnight, my husband would basically like I would go to sleep at 5 in the afternoon, and he would be coming home kind of at 5. So he would just live like his whole life in silence, like with the TV on mute, AirPods on, like trying to make no noise, things like that. Cooking dinner, at 1 a.m., close to the time when I'd be waking up, so that he didn't wake me up, things like that. So I think having someone who's understanding of the job is definitely like a huge plus. There's sometimes when, I don't know, you get home and it's like, oh, it's been such a long day. Like, do you want to argue over dinner? Or do you just want to get takeout? So I think it's just really kind of about the person that you're with, and how much they understand like what you do, and how this job sometimes does require a little bit more. Sometimes like you just had a whole shift, but now you have a nighttime meeting that you have to go to. Or like sometimes same, you got home really late, but like you have to be in court the next morning, so now you got to leave early. So for me, thankfully, it hasn't been too much of a challenge. At least I don't see it as much of a challenge, because I can kind of just communicate with my husband, like, hey, this is what's going on, and and he like understands it. Um, so yeah, but I guess with family, just trying to be mindful. And kind of like spreading my time out, and again planning. I don't think, like, I have a work planner and like a kind of personal planner, right? Because I try to make time on the weekends, like a little bit, just me and my husband, and then okay, maybe in the afternoon we'll go see my family, and then the next day we take out an hour to go see his family. That's also been an adjustment even moving back to Connecticut because in El Paso, neither of us had family. So all our free time was just for each other. And so now we're kind of learning to share our time with, with our family that does live here. In a way, though, it hasn't been too hard because we've also missed them, being away like 3 years and a half. This was our first holiday season that we got to spend, together again. So that was really nice. Um, so this year, these past 6 months, maybe it's felt a little bit easier because we've wanted to be at all these things that we've been missing out on these other past years. But I think moving forward, like so far, I think it's working out. So I think we can kind of continue it like this into this year, just splitting weekends between families. Of course, the occasional weekend we just kind of keep to ourselves and making time for friends too. I think it's important to kind of have like separate relationships. So I always try to, I don't know, we're also busy now. So trying to be mindful in that sense of like texting a friend, but not expecting them to be available that weekend, but more so of like, let's plan, for next weekend. And just being flexible with people so we can all like see each other, and that it's not just on my schedule. I always try to also consider other people's schedules so that it's not like, oh, you work in news, you're so busy. It's like, well, I know other people are busy too, So I just try to be mindful. Like we
Right.
all have stuff going on.
Good advice. I know you got to get going to work soon. Before we wrap it up,
Yeah.
what's what's some words of advice you could give to somebody who wants to become a creator or become a news reporter?
Yeah. Some words of advice. I would definitely say just stay focused. Um, you know, there's so many distractions, whatever that may look like in your life. So just stay focused to your actual, goal. Also be truthful to yourself. This career is difficult and it's not for everyone. So you have to see, you know, look inside of yourself and see if it really is something that you want to pursue and that you want to do. Um, no, and don't do it for the money. Like the money is fine, but just don't do it for that. Do it for more than that would also be another piece of advice. And don't compare yourself either because there's a lot of moving parts in a news industry, and so you never want to be comparing yourself or basing your success off of what other people are doing. Just like focus on your craft, focus on how you can improve like yourself, and just surround yourself with people with similar goals because that definitely helps in terms of motivation and again just staying focused. If you have other people kind of fighting for the same thing in your corner, then you'll all feel more inspired. You'll feel more inspired to do it on your own, and your friends do, also trying to do the same thing will motivate you just by like connection. So I think just a couple of those would be a couple of pieces of advice, I think.
Good advice. Really appreciate it for you coming on the
Thank
podcast.
you. Yeah, no, of course. Thank you so much. I almost feel like I
Thank
want to ask you some questions. I talk so much, but thanks so much.
you can ask a few questions if you want.
Yeah, all right, cool. So, well, I don't know much about you, but I was checking out some of the interviews that you've been doing. What made you want to get into all this?
Well, I went to CSB Broadcasting School for Radio and TV in Farmington, and I wanted to do radio, but I got into a car accident, so I had to take some time off. And then, like sitting around, I started the podcast.
Cool.
That's
Hey,
been going
well,
ever since.
so you made some good use of your time.
Yeah,
And it's funny because I probably mentioned planning so much because deep down, like I'm a pretty big procrastinator. So if I had gotten injured, I probably would just still be on my couch. So kudos to you.
thanks.
I'd be like, oh, I'm not ready yet. No, well, that's cool. What are like some ways that you're looking at, growing and building like your brand? Or do you have any advice for me? I should say.
Um, mm, Getting on more platforms and just like really getting my name out there more,
Yeah,
and then getting that company job,
yeah, for sure. Um, like company job, as in back in a radio.
like an NBC or like intercom or like a iHeart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, well, you could definitely do it. We're basically like doing the same things. Oh,
right.
that's cool.
Advice advice for you to keep growing, just probably keep doing what you're doing. You're in the right
Yeah.
spot.
Thank you. Yeah, I just got to get better with my reels. That's
You'll
a
get there.
little, yeah. It could be like a little social media resolution for this year.
Yeah, you'll get there.
Thank you. Hey, well, it was so nice talking.
Maybe we could do a part two soon.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, thank you. Have a good one.
All right. Thank you. You too.
Okay, take care.
Thanks. Should I just press this bottom button? Or
Yeah.
okay. All right. Cool.
All
Thank
right.
you.
You're welcome.